Now, let's go into perspective on the programme. And it's a river that flows for 650 kilometres. The Atrato River, a vital waterway that crosses Colombia, a vital source as well for supporting the lives of many of the country's indigenous people. Packed with wildlife, it's faced many difficulties, from mining and illegal logging to higher and higher toxic levels in the water that have devastated parts of the river, damaging the habitat for many species. Colombia, though, is not deaf to the problems. Nearly 10 years ago, the country's constitutional court declared special protections for the river to ensure it continues to thrive. A commission of river guardians also appointed to ensure it has special rights. Well, joining me here on set is Rodrigo Rogelis, who's a researcher and deputy director of SIEMBRA, socio-legal centre. He's also supporting the efforts to ensure the protection is carried out. He's here in Paris taking part in a discussion, in fact, at Sciences Po University. Thanks very much for coming in and talking to us. First of all, take us back, if you like, to before 2016, to before all the problems, and tell us what's so special about this river.
Well, this river is special because for centuries it was the axis of life of ethnic communities in their territory. Both Afro-Colombian and indigenous communities developed amazing cultural, productive, identitarial structures that all related to the rhythms of the river, to the rhythms of the rain, to the rivers of the flooding, and thanks to these communities managed to thrive for centuries in their own way, and they managed to also conserve the territory. So they developed these systems that both allow them to live, but allow the river to also flourish. So it's a river that for years, for decades, for centuries was actually very preserved, very conserved, but also allowed life to happen.
So what was going wrong?
Well, 30 years ago, extractive economies, especially illegal economies, got to the territory. Illegal gold mining started to go around and amplifying, armed conflict. These economies were pushed by illegal armed actors in the territory that saw gold as an opportunity of financing. So this alliance between the conflict and a very lucrative economy, well, it expanded a lot of very destructive environmental impacts that kind of disintegrated or started to disintegrate the relationship that communities had to the river.
Yeah, and it's a vital river as well, isn't it, for the country's indigenous people?
Yeah, exactly. They say that the Atrato is life. That's a common saying in the region, because it's where life happens. If the river is not functioning well, life cannot function well, because it's the way they communicate, it's the way they stay connected with the families. The communities are dispersed around the river. So if they can use the river, they cannot go to a family member, to a funeral. They cannot interchange the product. So river is life.
Beautiful images as well we're seeing of the river while you're talking. 2016 then, there was this decision by Colombia's constitutional court to protect the river. Why was that necessary?
Well, the government entities of Colombia allowed the destruction of the river to happen. And there were a lot of signals that it was going on. Communities manifested that this was going on, but nobody did anything because, gold mining especially generates a lot of money, and there's proved relations of this illegal economy with segments of the government at the local level. So the government basically allowed it to happen for many years. So communities decided that the river was not only an axis of life, but could become a horizon of political action. So they said, we need to do something to protect the river. So let's do a lawsuit around the river to have it protected, and have the government to take action, because they weren't taking any.
So since it's been put in, is it actually working? That's the crucial question, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the question. Governments is a very complex structure. It has various segments, various interests that cross it. a lot of budgetary deficiencies also in Colombia. Colombia is not, a rich country. So there are certain things that go really well and some things that are stagnant. So for example, one of the things that really works is a very novel system of governance that allows communities to have a role in decision-taking with the government at the same level. So there's a complete process of negotiation that is unprecedented in Colombia. So is historic because of the history of exclusion. And that has allowed to create a lot of projects, reforestation projects that are now being implemented, that are taking into account communities' vision and are being done through communities. However, other things are not going that well. Mining is still going on. And that is because, the prices of gold in the last 5 years have risen. And, this year with the tariff crisis in the United States, the gold prices have gone up. And whenever gold goes up, mining just expands in a way.
So things involving money, from what you're saying, are the things that have carried on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And the reality is that there's incentives not to stop it because that money flows through a lot of people. But also the strategies that the government implement are not up to par with the extent of this phenomenon that is fueled by very vertical criminal organizations, very dangerous criminal organizations that have a structure that is very difficult, very complex to deal with, and the government is not doing the right strategies to deal with it.
We talk an awful lot about all sorts of different environmental problems here on France 24, inevitably. I mean, the way that the situation has developed, if you like, in Colombia, and the way that people got together and took this to court. I mean, do you think that's the kind of thing that can help in other projects and in other rivers and in other seas and other environmental issues right across the planet?
Yeah, I think rights, but this is true of every right. It's a tool to solve problems, and people in Atrato use it as a way to get the attention of the government, to get the government to sit. And if that is something that can be done in other parts of the world, like here or in other places, why not? The important thing is that people that are behind it have really clear what they want to get from rights of nature, because every right is a way to solve a problem, but it needs to be connected to that solution. It needs to have community backup, and also needs to relate to the history of law in that particular country. So every case is gonna be different, but the systems that we have now, our law and political systems, are not doing very well in protecting nature. So this discussion that is beginning and that I'm seeing everywhere in the world, it's part of bringing new solutions and taking nature more seriously, because we are in a crisis, climatic crisis, environmental crisis. It's absolutely necessary.
There you go. Well, there you go. An story of inspiration for me. Thank you very much for coming in and talking to us on the programme today. Rodrigo Rogelis from the SIEMBRA Socio-Legal Centre. Thanks very much for coming in
and talking to us
about the river.